Hey everybody, it's Alison again, stlprostretch.com, and today is day number 2 of Stretching Resolutions 2023. So if you'll notice, as I go through doing these, I'm going to be doing them in pairs, and there's a reason for that because we have some problem solving that we'll get into later on. And the way I'm going about it is agonist-antagonist. So first 2 stretches were central hamstring and hip flexor. So those kind of go together. Usually one muscle is too tight and the other muscle on the other side is too weak to overcome. Like there's an imbalance happening there. So as we go through these stretches, especially today because we're going to do abductors and adductors, you may notice that you get a cramp or a jamming sensation in the other side of the hip as we go through some of these stretches. So it's important to take note, and you may have to move back and forth from one to the other in order to kind of unlock some of these muscles. And that'll get more advanced as we go. But so we've got the first one, which was central hamstring, and then we did the hip flexor, and then we did a little chest and calves. That's kind of an extra. There are 8 primary level 1 stretches for Ki-hara, and that's what we're going to try to get through in the first week and a half. So if you're interested in joining along, let's go on to the mat. Today you'll need a mat, a blanket, or a pillow to put your knee on, and maybe a pair of socks. We're going to have several options for both stretches. So let's come to your mat. And we're going to start with my favorite. Oh, I forgot to say, don't do it if it hurts. Please try to work within your range of motion and always move and resist for the most part for most of these stretches. So we're going to start with abductors today. Abductors, that's your glutes, and mostly I'm talking about the external rotators. And my favorite way to do it is standing because I feel like there's more range of motion and I feel I can get better resistance with it. But I'll go over the supine version later on. We're going to stand on the right foot. You can hang on to a wall if you want to, and then make a figure 4 with your left ankle. I'm going to press my left ankle into my right thigh, so pressing to engage these muscles. And then as I press, I'm going to stick my butt out and try lowering down into like a chair position. So I'm bending my right knee. And then as I come up, I'm going to use this left ankle to press myself out of it. And I'm just going to come up and down 8 to 12 times. This is the standard, but sometimes you may feel like you need to do more or less, depending on the muscle. Sometimes on the tight muscle, you need to focus more on stretching. Sometimes with the loose muscle, on the other side, you need to focus more on strength. So strength part would be me coming up. I'm engaging that muscle to shorten it, right? And then as I lower down, I am stretching it. So with some muscles, you may feel like, okay, I'm really open with this muscle. I may need to work on strengthening it to balance the other muscle on the other side. So again, this is all agonist, antagonist. As you stand up, you may feel something going on in the side here. That's your TFL usually. And feel free to get down as low as you want to go. I'm still hanging onto the wall. You don't have to. You can use this as a balance exercise as well. And then we'll move on to the other side. So now I'm on my left ankle. My left foot. I'm going to cross my right ankle over, press into the thigh to engage, and then I'm going to stick my butt out. This is one of the only times that you're going to hear me say stick your butt out. Usually it's the opposite, to get that stretch, and then push with the ankle to come back up. So it's not just, we're not just doing like a single leg squat here. We're actually using this right leg to push out of it. And you can feel those muscles engaging, and once they start to get warmed up, you'll start to feel them open up. You may be able to get farther down. I usually start with the abductors and adductors. I start with the abductors because those are the muscles usually that get jammed up or cramp more so than the adductors. Sometimes I'll start with the adductors, the inner thigh, and then people tend to get like cramps on the TFL or the piriformis, and then we have to move back to the abductors. So for me, I've just found generally with most people, it's better to start with the abductors and then move to the adductors. So we'll do that. And the reason I chose the standing one first is because when I've taught classes, it's usually easier for me to get people into this position versus the figure 4. The inflexible people. Yeah. Okay, and next, whew, that's a good stretch. I need to be doing these myself. And next we're going to work on the adductors. And I'm going to do a really simple one. This is not our standard adductor stretch, but I'll show you what the standard one is. So I've got a blanket down here. I'm going to be kneeling. I'm going to put my foot out to the side. I'm going to press the inside of my foot into the mat to engage my adductors. And then I'm going to start rotating. So I got my hands behind my head. You could just bend. This is fine too. And move in and out of the stretch. I'm going to move through this one pretty quickly. I feel like with this one, I'm not getting as much strength. So if you're really up for strengthening these muscles, the next two that we do are going to be a little more effective for building strength. And here's one. If you start to feel this, tighten up. On the outside, that's going to be your TFL, and you'll probably have to go back to the first one that we did, or I may just cheat and throw in one here that you can do. We'll move to the other side. So I'm pressing the foot into the mat to engage the adductors, and then I'm bending to the side. You can put your hands behind your head, or you can just slide your arm down. We definitely want to use that foot more than just your side waist to pull out of it. So if you get jammed up in here, you can either move back to the first one that we did, or, and I'm going to go through this really, really quickly, you can just keep going with that one if you're not jammed up. Cross your knees and go down and up. You'll have to switch legs and do it on both sides. If you're just getting a jamming sensation in the side of your hips to do that one, which sometimes you do. All right, so stretch number 2 for the adductors, and this one's always really awkward for me to do on camera because I'm lying down and I'm facing away from you, so this is why I have the microphone. So I'm going to lie down. And this might be a little awkward for you to do in the gym as well, so that's why I did the first one first. You're going to lie down, put your head on something or not, and your feet are going to go straight up in the air. I'm going to open my legs. I'm going to take my hands and put them on my inner thighs. I'm pressing open with my hands, and I'm going to bring my heels towards each other as I'm pressing open. I am slowing the movement down by pressing open with my hands. So my heels are going to come together, toes out, and then I'm going to let my arms win, and I'm going to open the legs. The heels are still coming together. I'm just letting my arms win, and then as I rotate, as I open, I'm going to rotate my toes more inward. So open and close. This is a great one because you can do both legs at the same time. Again, if you feel like your hip muscles, the back side of your hips, are jamming up, you're going to have to go back to that first one that we did. That is basic problem solving. And I would say about 80% of the time it works. Now, what I'm starting to feel here as I do this is my hip flexor is tight. And so since these are kind of all in the same quadrant, front, back, side to side, inside, outside, so it makes a T, this is your first problem-solving quadrant. So if I feel it in my hip flexor, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do that first stretch that we did, remember? Or one of the first stretches from the first video, where you're scissoring your legs together and shifting forward and back. And that would be the stretch for the hip flexor. So you'd want to do that. If you're feeling it, just take some of the discomfort out of it, stretch this muscle, open it up, and then go back to your adductors and see if that helps. But if you're just getting started with this and you've never done this before, just notice these things, maybe write them down. And you can do this quadrant on one day, and then the next day, as we get into the next quadrant, it'd be the X quadrant, then you can do the X quadrant. So you can kind of alternate days, or you may get good enough, like I can do all of the stretches in about 20, 25 minutes. So I can do them every day. If you do them every day for a month, you are going to feel great. I can guarantee you that. Another adductor stretch for you. This one, I would say either use a chair, or I like to use yoga blocks. And this is why I've got my socks on. So I started with socks on. And if you've got carpet, you'd need gliders, furniture gliders work great, or paper plates even. But if you're really good, you don't even need that. So I'm going to open my legs, and I'm going to slide down until I feel a stretch, and then I'm going to pull back again. So I'm just sliding open and closed. And for me, this one and the one that I just did lying on my back are definitely better strengthener exercises than stretching. Well, no, than the first one that we did, sorry. So if I were working on strength, I would definitely do this one or the one that I just did on my back. All right. And finally, we're going to work into the last abductor stretch. So this one is on your back. You might need a towel or a strap if you're not that flexible. So I'm lying on my back. I'm going to let's cross the right ankle over the left knee. Lift. Take your right hand through the hole that you created. Left hand around the back. Hook. Press this ankle out. So this ankle is always going to be pressing out the entire time. I'm going to press, 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 press. The upper body's going to come along for the ride. So that's strength. Keep pressing, and now let the upper body win. It's a counterweight, and pull the left knee into toward the chest. That's your stretch. So strength and stretch. So this is your second abductor stretch. You may prefer this one. So you can pick and choose which of these that you like. Maybe swap one of them out if you're doing it every other day. Maybe the first day you do this one, the second day you do the standing version. It doesn't really matter. They all work. You just may find your favorite. And then switch legs. So now I'm crossing my left ankle over my right knee. I'm going to take my left hand through the hole I've created, right hand around the back. I'm going to press this left foot out. So this foot is always pressing out the whole time. Push and pull. And when you come up, so you're pressing the left ankle out, this is not an abdominal exercise. I get some people that are like, oh, it's not an abdominal exercise. Your upper body is your resistance. It's your counterweight so you can get more resistance in this stretch. And then when you pull back, we want to pull back. We want to try to keep the hips on the ground. So if you roll up, you're going to start getting a lower back stretch, and that's not what this stretch is all about. So back and forth. And after doing all of these, I really feel like doing all of them was even better than just doing one set of each. Anyway, so that is day number 2. I'm going to try to get another one out to you this week, in which we'll start working on the X quadrant. So any questions or comments, please leave them for me, and I will see you next time. Happy stretching.